In this episode, we're discussing Jim Rogers' quote, "Becoming wealthy is a boring game." What does he mean by that quote? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome to the Red to Black podcast with your hosts, Werner and Mario. Mario, how are you doing today? And what does Jim Rogers mean by becoming wealthy is boring?
Yeah, doing well, Werner. Thanks for the question. Yeah, Jim Rogers worked with George Soros, made a fortune, traveled around the world, I think in a souped up vehicle of some sort. I think it was a Mercedes Benz. And he said that getting really wealthy should be like picking up $100 bills. It should be big no-brainers. I would also tie that to Ted Williams. I think it was The Art of Batting he wrote. Ted Williams, basically
Science of Batting.
Basically, you want to sit there and wait for the easy pitches. Ted Williams, if he only swung at pitches that were in a certain area of his swing, he knew he could hit over 300. He could bat over 300 if he was only swinging at the right pitches. And that's really what investing comes down to: is if you can have the patience, the diligence to sit on your hands and wait till there's a no brainer. Like really, it should be basically as like bending down and picking up $100 bill. It should be very clear that this is a wonderful deal. It shouldn't take a lot of heavy lifting to understand the deal. If it's complicated and there's many layers to it and there's a bunch of variables, it's usually not a good investment. The best investments in the world are the big no-brainers.
So why is everyone, as I like to say, a sucker for a sexy business?
Because there's euphoria. A great business or a great salesman creates energy. Elon Musk has created a ton of energy around electric cars. Electric cars have existed for over 100 years, but he's created a great story, and people bought into that story. And there's excitement, and there's polarity. There's a positive and negative. There's people saying he's going to fail. It's all crashing. Tesla's a horrible investment. That's energy. There's some energy in that. There's the other side of it. This is the new technology. It's going to change the world. It's going to revolutionize how we drive to and from work. That's creating energy, and that gets money flowing. But the best investments in the world are actually big no-brainers. They're buying a wonderful business at a reasonable price or even a cheap price. That's a great investment.
So what he really means by that is there's basically two types of emotions. There's a very rational, clear thinking emotion, and then there's this euphoric, excited emotion where we are right now in the markets. And when you have that euphoric, excited emotion, Jim Rogers is the counter thought to that is this rational thought. And with that rational thought is evaluation and patience. And when you're going through these behavioral swings in the market, that's why he's saying it's a boring game, because you're not caught in the excitement and the euphoria. What are your friends saying about this investment? What is Jim Cramer at CNBC saying about investments? It's really, you've done your analysis ahead of time, and now you're just waiting for that business to trade at the price for which you pay for it.
That's right. It's what a good business is. So you've worked your way through, let's say 7,000 publicly traded businesses in the world that are in, let's say, G20 or better countries. You've done that due diligence. You've identified who the players are in each country. They're really the top businesses. They make a ton of free cash flow, and they do really smart things with the free cash flow. They buy back their shares, they pay a wonderful dividend, and they go out and do bolt-on acquisitions. That's all they do. They make a ton of money, and they do one of those three things or a combination of those three things. And then it's simply a waiting game. It's stacking cash. It's living under your means. And it's waiting for an opportunity to buy that business at a fair or discounted price. And that's a great investment, is doing that.
So what's really interesting about what you're saying is that this is foreign to a lot of people, because I've been on Quora answering a lot of questions promoting our podcast, and you'd be amazed the amount of people or the amount of questions people ask that are so simple. Like a question is, how do I get started in the stock market? I'm like, wow, this is such a simple question. Yes, yet it's such an opportunity to support these individuals, because what a lot of people are responding to them with is like, oh, well, I took this class and I did this. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second, put on the brakes. The number one thing when analyzing a business is accounting. What is the underlying core fundamentals of that business? And it doesn't matter whether or not it's the stock market, it's the real estate market, the private business market, starting your own business. Everyone seems to think that all these different markets are different when they're all the exact same. There's just different ways of getting into the market. The stock market, it's easy to get into and buy a business, that's why it makes it so euphoric. Real estate's a little more challenging as it goes from like a fourplex to a 10plex to bigger multifamily. Then it's a harder bar to enter that market. It doesn't mean the fundamentals are different. So I think that's where people get caught up is number one, they don't even know what the fundamentals are because most people haven't taken accounting. And number two, there's some like fairy tale euphoric, like, oh, this business is great, I'm just going to get into it. So for our listeners, the key takeaway is always start with what are the underlying fundamentals, meaning what's the cash flow of the business? When I make $1, how much do I keep? That's like in its basic essence is almost like the operating margin. When I make revenue, there's cost of goods or cost of services, sales, general, administrative, what's left over? Because that tells me what it takes to operate that business.
That's right, Warner. I look at an analogy like a blackjack table. If the dealer was sitting on 16 and they had to hit on 16, and you could wait, you don't have to ante, you don't have to bet until you see what the dealer's sitting on. And the dealer was sitting on 16, and you were allowed to get real aggressive every time the dealer was sitting on 16 and they had to hit. It'd be a big no-brainer. You'd just sit there sipping your drinks and waiting until the dealer was on 16, and then you get super aggressive. That's a great investment. And it's really temperament. What it comes down to is everybody will identify that's a great business. And people actually identify, wow, the market's really, it's being crazy right now. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of unknowns. There's a Lehman Brothers occurring right now. There's a collapse in the financial industry. What does the underlying economics of this business say? It's sound. They make money. These people know how to make money. They're running a wonderful business. Basically, it's those times where you need to you should, if you have the temperament, you should get real aggressive. And the other times, you should simply just be patient and sit on your hands and wait. And you can do some work. You can go out there and look at some interesting businesses and follow businesses and research. But most of the time, you should be sitting on your hands.
Yeah, exactly. And what you're pointing to is the boring aspect of the business that Jim Rogers is referring to, which is the analysis. I mean, how many people, I was reading a 10K today on Discover Bank, and because I'm more interested, because, both of us have our cash positions in money markets, and I'm going deeper into these money markets. How do they work? A bank is a huge part of a money market, whether people know that or not. So I'm reading these 10K statements. I'm literally falling asleep on the couch. I'm literally going through like the risk assessment, and my eyes, I'm like nodding off, coming back awake. And I remembered a statement you said, hey, let's not do any podcasts on 10Ks because it's like a lullaby. We're going to put people to sleep. So 10K is boring. You can make it fun because you can see the final outcome, which is I get a great business, I get this cash flow, and I'm sitting on a beach just enjoying it. What people don't realize is that's the boring part to get there, is that analysis of these businesses over and over and over again. And why Jim Rogers says it's a boring game is because when you get into the euphoria, that's like a simple, easy, quick game, but there's no effort involved in that. It's just excitement. The effort and the boring nature of it is involved in the years and years of analysis. And then, so there's two parts, evaluation and then patience. You're evaluating.
Stay as far away from excitement when it comes to investing as possible. Go get your excitement. You see right here, go do it somewhere else. Don't do it in the investment community.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. We invite you to get to know us by clicking on our LinkedIn profiles in the description of this video. Please subscribe, hit the bell notification for future updates, and share this content with your networks. Thank you for your valuable time and insights. We greatly appreciate it.